next speaker is Maughan from EV North, which is part of the North East Automotive Alliance.
Well, I'm going to give you a sort of 2-minute warning when you get to about 20 minutes, so there's enough time for questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. It's really great to be here today. Despite having grown up in the Northeast, I've never actually been inside this building, which is absolutely fantastic. So I'm here today as chairman of a group called EV North. My background in electric vehicles goes back to 2004. I set up a business called Avid Technology, which grew and scaled up, developing powertrain components and systems, which back then it was a very hard thing to convince people that electric vehicles were even going to be a thing. And obviously that developed and changed over the years. I sold that company about a year ago and now work as an advisor and a board director of a number of other businesses in the EV space. So EV North is an organization that I guess you could say was created out of a degree of frustration. It's part of the Northeast Automotive Alliance, but we were effectively frustrated at continuously being overlooked. I think a lot of people don't realise how strong the automotive industry is in the north of England, full stop, let alone the electric vehicle industry. And that kind of has been extenuated in recent times with various announcements, and even the positive announcements in the region. For example, British Volt building their new gigafactory in Camas, being described as the first gigaplant in the UK. Well, it's really not. The first gigaplant in the UK, and in fact in Europe, was built by Nissan AESC way back, and has been in operation for many years. And even 2 weeks ago, I was at an event in the West Midlands, and a speaker stood up and he said, until the BIC, the Battery Innovation Centre, was constructed, there was no battery manufacturing in the UK. Ironically, the guy that runs the BIC was a chap called Jeff Pratt, who set up the plant in Sunderland. So we created EV North out of this sort of sense of, hello, we're here. There's lots of interesting things going on up here and have been going on up here for actually a really long time. You can trace the roots of the expertise in the region in motor design and power electronics design way back into the 1890s, 1880s. Some huge innovations in electrical power happened right here in the region. So we created the group to build on that. We're very lucky. We've got a very strong membership of companies and academic institutions and things like that. This is the formal board, so the governance board of EV North. The Automotive Alliance also has a senior executive board as well, but you can see, sort of a who's who of the automotive space in the region. We created EV North to promote the region, to really try and strengthen the position of the Northeast as a global centre for design and manufacture of components, to capitalise on the megatrend and build on those existing regional assets and capabilities with a sort of unique knowledge. And actually a great example of that is the British Volt investment. If you look back, originally British Volt were planning to invest in Wales. They were looking at a greenfield site in Wales. They were really struggling with infrastructure. Although they were going to get a massive check from the Welsh Government, infrastructure and planning issues were hampering their project. We were able to provide advice about the potential sites in the northeast, and in particular about the site at Camas on the former Blythe Power Station. And despite the fact that they're not getting any regional government support, they're getting some ATF funding for that site. But that site had really significant existing assets on it. So the energy infrastructure that was available there, the grid interconnections, the North Sea interconnector, the road infrastructure is fantastic. Obviously, it's a brownfield site as well. So kind of we haven't got a lot of sort of regional government support at the moment that we can throw at projects, but we need to make sure that we really understand other things that we've got to offer and help promote those to inward investors and attract businesses into the region. And we're doing all of this to try and create more economic opportunities in the region, create more jobs. There's a sort of motto that the Enterprise Partnership has of more and better jobs. And that's really what we're here to do, to sort of aid this transition in the region. And I guess here today in an old mining institute building, from the sort of heavy old industries into future renewable and clean industries. So the Northeast Automotive Alliance is a very big organization, and it surprises some people to know that it's the biggest automotive cluster organization in the UK, and it's one of the biggest in Europe. So it's in the top 5, give or take, in the whole of Europe. There is significant activity associated with the automotive space up here. Obviously, the sort of anchor business to that is Nissan and the inward investment from that. But we've also got other OEMs in the off-highway space, people like Caterpillar, Cummins Engines, and then a very big supply chain of tier one. So something like 300 members in the Automotive Alliance. That gives us a really, really strong base to work from, and an excellent kind of position to be able to promote the industry nationally and internationally, and access to the senior boardrooms at a lot of these companies, which are global companies. So very, very strong base that we work from with the Automotive Alliance. So just a sort of few little things on this infographic. It's a little bit out of date on this slide, but in terms of the Nissan Leaf, so the longest running EV made in Europe, 50-odd thousand vehicles, sort of a production run rate of about 30 to 40,000 vehicles a year, which at one time in the past was amazing, but now they're getting eclipsed by others. But they've made some massive announcements of new investments and new vehicles being launched from that plant. But that Leaf production has established a skill base in the area. Obviously, the battery production for the Leaf being local as well, a massive skill base in the area in terms of electric vehicle components and systems manufacturing. We were the site of Europe's first battery gigafactory, and that's kind of something that we're very proud of, and it's not the British Volt plant, it's the AESC Envision plant. So the existing factory that's in production today has a capacity to make for about 50,000 vehicles a year, about 1.8 gigawatt hours of manufacturing capacity. Obviously, tiny compared to the new plants that have been announced, but it's still a gigafactory. That's like a really important thing that we always like to hold on to. And we've got the 2 new facilities that have been announced, so the new Envision plant, which is just off the Nissan campus, and then the British Volt plant that we've mentioned a few times this morning. So there's around 60 gigawatt hours of total capacity between those two cell manufacturing plants. We've also got in the region huge skills and expertise in electric motor manufacturing, design and development. That goes back a really, really long time in the region. Biggest automotive power electronics manufacturing plant, the oldest electric vehicle controller manufacturer in the world, which is linked to the Rington's Tea Company, if you've got your cups of tea there, Smith's Electric Vehicles Control Systems. Huge academic base, really, really strong academic base. Again, something that surprises people, the base in the region of students studying STEM subjects, we'd like it to be higher, but we're already the highest proportion of any UK region of STEM students. So there's a really strong base of young people coming in, potentially into the industry, if we can attract them into the EV space and to stay in the region, is a thing. People come and study in the Northeast and then move away. So there's a good source of graduates and talent there, potentially. And this number is a little bit out of date again, because it's even higher now. But 4 billion of investment in the space. There was a sort of thing done by UK Trade and Investment a little while ago, maybe last month, and the Northeast was like 10x what any other region in the UK had in terms of investment in EV component development, EV manufacturing, things like that. So just a few of those, so sort of almost 4 billion of new investment just since 2020. So the British Volt site in Camas there. A company called Turntide acquired my business and a business that span out of my company, Hyperdrive, which is a battery systems business. Turntide have invested something like $400 million now in the region. They've just announced a significant additional investment into the region. We've got things like the Peak Resources plant and the Nissan EV 360 strategy, which again is a multi-billion investment, both by Nissan directly in their plant, and also by Envision in the battery manufacturing plant off-site. And it's a very comprehensive plan from Nissan in terms of installing their own energy production and renewables and completely integrated supply chain strategy. So very, very exciting investments and more coming. There are discussions happening in the background now. There's at least the discussions about at least one other significant battery plant and one other significant new OEM coming to the region. So there's an awful lot going on behind the scenes as well as what people can see in the announcements and things that are in the public domain. The UK ecosystem, we normally talk a bit about this, but there's a part of the reason for creating EV North was that the companies who are the members of the Automotive Alliance were kind of saying to us, well, we don't understand, there's all these different organizations in the UK. Someone mentioned Julian Hetherington earlier, who's the Automotive Transformation Fund director, and the ATF is part of the APC, and then you've got DER and lots of these three-letter acronyms, and ZENZIC, which is so good, they gave it 6 letters as an acronym. There's a whole sort of host of organizations that potentially have funding, collaboration opportunities and things like that. And what we do as part of the EV North activity is help the members in the Northeast to collaborate with each other and talk about potential projects with national and international funding bodies and attract public investment and private investment into those projects in the region. So we've been able to pull together a lot of projects on the public sector side, so quite successful in terms of leveraging and attracting funding for electrification projects and automation projects into the region, but also successful in terms of private investment. We'll take some of the credit for the Bridgevolt investment into the region, and then we had another announcement a couple of months ago about a motors and drives manufacturer making a multi-million investment plus others. So this sort of coordinated approach, bringing people together, I think is sort of fairly unique in the Northeast. And and I guess again, just from this building, you can see that it was a way of business, even all the way back, bringing potentially competitors together to collaborate and talk about how they could make their industry better. So really, that's it. EV North. I'm happy to talk to people about it later. It does exist. We're here to promote the Northeast, to promote the region, and all the good things that are going on here. We want to encourage more collaborative R&D between members and to leverage public investment and attract more private sector investment into the region. It's always been a problem for, the whole time I was in business, raising private investment was incredibly difficult. Sort of quite frustrating in a way. Fantastic results selling to an American business, but in the whole time I ran my company, I managed to raise something like 10 million. And then off the back of that, some Americans went off and they've just raised the neck end of $500 million, over $1 billion valuation for the same businesses that we couldn't raise investment for in the Northeast. So attracting more investment into the region and making investors aware of what we're doing up here, and really applaud what Stuart and the team have done, because one of the things I sort of noticed listening to conversations and people in the room is like hardly any of you are from the Northeast, which is great to see so many foreigners here. People from outside the region, and we do understand what you're saying, and hopefully you understand what I'm saying, and some good conversations will come from that. So that's it. That's EV North.
Right, do we have any questions for Ryan? Mark.
Can you help with planning issues? Because very often, as investors, part of the big frustration seems to be trying to put the planning process.
I think so. Yes and no. So we definitely, the Alliance, all of the local authorities are members and active members. We've got some better links with some than we have with others. So some of the local authorities are really proactive, actually. Members of the Alliance, Sunderland in particular, obviously that's where Nissan are located. And they give it a lot of attention. With the BV site in Camas, we were able to effectively sit in the middle and make the case for why that would be a a good use of that site. Originally, the local authority were not convinced that a battery plant fitted with the local strategy. They had sort of earmarked the site to be for making components for wind turbines and other sort of renewable energy activity. So we had to sort of try and get a meeting of minds on that, and we're directly involved in that sort of discussion. Obviously, then after that, it's for the local authorities and people to make the magic happen. But I think what the Alliance, and you know, not just me, but the exec team in the Alliance have been quite successful at, is being a kind of translator, you know, between industry and what industry wants, and helping the local authorities kind of understand that in a way that the public sector can work with it. So, you know, the British Vault site, one of the things that they say about that project has been the fastest sort of progression of a battery gigafactory in Europe from application to grant of planning and starting to dig holes in the ground. So the speed at which that site has been developed is astonishing, really, and that's the support of the local authorities that you will get in the region.